Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for joining us here this evening. We are absolutely delighted to be joined by Minister Ghani and Under Secretary Jose Fernandez.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you to the Critical Minerals International Alliance for putting on this event. It is a testament to the strength of the US and UK strong relationship on many things, including critical minerals strategy, that not even the threat of a government shutdown could get in the way of the Under-Secretary of State's plans to be here with us in London. And I am very pleased he can be here for what's going to be a very intense week, Under-Secretary of State, including hosting the 4th Mineral Security Partnership Ministerial, which the UK is very proud to be hosting. I am the Critical Minerals Minister. I'm also responsible for supply chains. I'm also responsible for advanced manufacturing, and I keep being reminded by the Prime Minister that's 2.5 million jobs and £183 billion of output for the economy. But I can't do any of that without critical minerals. This is why this sector and this portfolio is so important to me. And of course, all the work that we're doing in the UK means that I am never shy of promoting London's rich mining pedigree, because it is truly something to be proud of. The London Stock Exchange has provided finance for mining projects around the world since the 19th century and is still home to many of the mining majors. And we are continuing that rich tradition from the £1.45 billion. This budget keeps growing, doesn't it? We have invested in R&D since 2017 to support cutting-edge UK companies developing the next generation of critical mineral technology. To the critical mineral projects we have supported this year, including the government support through the Automotive Transformation Fund for a range of UK companies, to the way we are forging ahead with international agreements from Canada to Kazakhstan and Australia to Zambia, with many more to come. And of course, there's much more that we can do, which is why I will have to leave here very shortly tonight, because I'm attending an event working with investors to turbocharge investment into critical minerals. I have had the pleasure of meeting the Under-Secretary of State several times this year on 3 different continents, and each time I've been struck by his depth of knowledge and his passion for the sector. And of course, I share a desire that only through international collaboration can we ensure the secure and sustainable supply chains the world needs to reach net zero. The announcement of the Atlantic Declaration of the start of negotiations and a targeted critical minerals agreement is just one indication of the close relationship between our 2 nations on one of the world's greatest challenges. And all of you here today are evidence that that relationship extends further than just between 2 governments. And so I'm pleased once again to be hosting you, Under Secretary of State. I know the last time we met was in a vineyard in South Africa. We might not have the weather, but I think this will be just as memorable. I wish everyone a fantastic evening and a fantastic couple of days. I hope, like me, you'll be involved in the whole London Metals Week, Critical Minerals Week, until Wednesday and Thursday, and I look forward to seeing you again. Jose, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Just knowing how busy the minister is, I'm really grateful for you coming here. She doesn't know this, but I've been a fan of her work, not on critical minerals, for a long time. The work she's done on women is one that I think should make us all proud. And thank you for being our partner from day one. She has been, she understood why we needed it. She understood the urgency. And when we were having probably 1 glass of wine too many in South Africa.
Sounds always worse.
Sounds wonderful. She actually suggested that we try and do something at the LME here in London for the Mineral Security Partnership. And why? Well, because we can set up all the government type of agreements that we like. But at the end of the day, if this is going to work, it's going to have the private sector. And so what we are doing in the next week is we will be working together with financing institutions, with mining companies, recycling companies, and see how we can work together to deal with something that is staring us right in the face, and that is the clean energy, the need to reach our clean energy future sooner than we expect to, certainly sooner than by 2050, and at the same time the vulnerability that we all have when we realized that we need 42 times the amount of lithium, 25 times the amount of manganese. And so it's a passion of mine because I do see the train coming down the tracks. And I'd like to make sure that we stay out of the way before it hurts us. So with that, Madam Minister, thank you. And thank you very much.
So thank you ever so much, Ian, for coming along. Much appreciated. I think let's start with the MSP. So can you give us a little bit of a background around the MSP and how it's going to work to address some of the supply chain problems that we face today?
So the MSP, which stands for the Mineral Security Partnership, is something that we start thinking about a little bit over a year ago and actually started to put it into practice about a year ago. It's intended to deal with a problem that I just alluded to, which is that we need to do a much better job at sharing information on critical mineral possibilities, opportunities, at investing, at financing jointly. We need to work on recycling. The IEA has told us that right now we have very little to recycle, but that in 10 years we could have as much as 10% of EV battery components could come from recycled materials. So that's an opportunity. And then lastly, and this is the one part that's going to be hard to do, but we've got to get it right. We've got to work with producing countries to convince them that they will benefit from critical mineral mining, refining, and so on. This is, let's not sugarcoat this. Mining has had a checkered history in many places. There are communities out there that see perfectly fine projects and are not willing to let those projects go forward because they don't think that they will benefit from those projects. We've got to find a way of changing that mindset. And if we can do that, what makes me optimistic is when I speak to government officials in many countries, I think we're pushing in an open door. If we can convince them, I think we can start dealing with this vulnerability. We can start dealing with this challenge because they are looking for alternatives, and what they do not want to do is trade environmental degradation, poverty, child labor, lack of transparency for economic growth. That's a false choice. And stay tuned. I think the UK has been a great partner since day one. We now have 13 countries that are part of the MSP plus the EU. Those countries include some major producing countries such as Australia, such as Canada. India just joined a couple of months ago. Right now, we comprise over 50% of the world's GDP. So we have a powerful alliance, and this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to do it right. It's both a business opportunity for many of you in the audience, but also a strategic imperative for our climate energy goals going forward. With that, thank you.
Thank you. So, well, with that, and looking at the people in the crowd today, how is the MSP going to engage with industry?
We are part of what we aim to do in the next couple of days is we've had great ad hoc conversations with companies that want our support, companies that are looking for the advocacy that it's not just the US, it's not just the UK, that the MSP can provide. If we go together to country X and say this is a project that we believe in, it's a project that we feel we should support, countries listen. And so we are engaging with companies constantly. There's not a week that goes by that I don't meet a couple of companies. But I think what we're hoping to do now is to create a line of communication where we can actually hear from companies on a regular basis, get back to them, get with some sort of feedback, and start just creating a loop where we can work constructively together. Because at the end of the day, we can come up with the ideas, we can come up with some of the financing from our Development Finance Corporation and the like. We can provide some advocacy, but at the end of the day, we are midwives. We the ones that are going to implement are the companies. So my hope is that following this, we are creating a network of companies in the U.S. We're partnering with one institution. We hope other countries will do the same or just join our network. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you one, and I'll stop here. Something that this dawned on me a couple of months ago, when you may have heard of the gallium and germanium shot across the bow that we got from the PRC. A number of countries were concerned, and they came to us, and they said, "We need this. How do we go about finding it?" So we went out and canvassed producers. We actually have a couple that have gallium and germanium to sell. And then I spoke to one of the companies, and the CEO of that company said, "Jose, just tell me if you need it. I'll just produce it, and in 3 months you'll have all the germanium that you need." And it dawned on me that we ought to have a way to provide a sort of demand signal to industry. And if we can do that, there's all sorts of legal issues that we're going to need. We can't benefit one entity over another. We've got to deal with the legalities of it. But if we were able to go to a company or to a group of companies and say, "We need more germanium in 3 months, and Japan needs this. Just think of how much more we could do together. Or if a company could come to us and say, "We are running out of this. Something is happening. You're going to have a problem in your supply chains." We could take action much earlier. And so it's a long way of saying, I think we need a symbiotic relationship with the private industry, and that's what we're working on at this meeting.
That's excellent to hear. Actually, I think I've heard of something that's going on in Australia around that, so I might bend your ear later. But off the back of that, then, it seems that and the world media and the industry has slight concerns around China and its role. Is that a concern to the U.S.?
Of course, it's a concern, but it's not. I get this question all the time. Could be any country. If you put all your eggs in one basket, you're going to have a problem. You wouldn't do it at home. You wouldn't have one supplier of anything. We've learned it with the invasion of Ukraine, where countries were depending on Russian gas, and that created a vulnerability. We saw it during COVID when we couldn't get PPE equipment because one or two countries had a natural disaster or hurricane. We need to diversify, and we'll be a lot stronger by it. And we would do this with or without China. So it's broader than that. We can't just. This is not part of the PRC Western world competition.
Good to hear. So about going more to domestic stuff, about a year ago, IRA was created. Can you just give us an update on how that's going and how that's feeding into the climate change and energy transition that's going on in the US?
Well, it's actually going very well, and a number of you here will discount that because that's my job, right? But I'll give you some numbers. 170,000 jobs in the last 12 months. 130, I know that I live with numbers, so excuse my numbers. $137 billion worth of new investment in the last year. In the last year, 32 automobile companies announcing 1.2 trillion with a T dollars of new investment as a result of the IRA. If we wanted to galvanize the industry, it's happening. So from a U.S. point of view, this is we've got to stay the course. It's the IRA provides $369 billion over a 10-year period, which is great because it allows companies to plan, right? So we've got to stay the course. It's only been 1 year. And at the same time, we've spent a lot of time addressing the concerns that a number of our best allies and partners had. A number of countries felt that this would lead to a hollowing out of their industry. Well, we've talked to them, and as part of, for example, with the EU, we have the Trade and Technology Council has addressed this. we speak to our counterparts all the time. We're negotiating a critical minerals agreement with the UK and with the EU. We signed one with Japan. So it continues. We're trying to do all that we can to make sure that our partners understand that we are going to bring them along. We're also encouraging them to have the same type of incentives because if we can lead a race to the top, that's the best example. But I think the numbers are good, and at the end of the day, if we succeed with the Inflation Reduction Act, this will expand the pie. It'll expand the pie in terms of technology, in terms of new uses, and so I think the news is good, but we're just at the starting gate.
Absolutely. Well, going from domestic then to international, obviously we have to do a lot of engagement with producing nations, perhaps not Canada and Australia, but lower income nations. So can you give us a bit more of an understanding of the work that the US is doing with those producing nations and perhaps how that might help them secure more income from their natural deposits?
Yeah. Look, over the space of 12 months since the start of the MSP, we've had 2 meetings at the UN with producing countries. We've had 2 meetings in South Africa. We're having this one here. That's pretty good. 5 meetings in a year with the likes of Zambia, the DRC, Argentina, Chile, is exactly the kind of engagement that we want to create. I think countries see the opportunity. They see that this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. They've also know that history is littered with resource curse nations, and so we've got to avoid it. So I think the idea of working on ESG, of working to make sure the communities are both involved and benefit, is something that resonates. So another goal of our meeting next week is to formalize, institutionalize our engagement with countries. But it's so far so good. I'm actually, this is a good news story. They see the opportunity, the cynicism is there. All right, so we'll deal with it.
Yes, I like that frankness. That'll definitely work. And so one last question before we go and start mingling. But what do you see as the biggest challenge at the moment in the supply chain, and how do we overcome that?
I'll tell you, the biggest challenge is that this is a marathon. This is a marathon. 2050 is a long way away. When you need 42 times the amount of lithium, not to mix metaphors here, a marathon is 42 kilometers. We're kilometer 1. We need 42 more kilometers. Do we have what it takes? Do governments have? This is expensive. It deals with a multi-generational issue. Can we stay the course? And again, we will see what happens. We in the U.S. are going to stay the course. We are committed to staying the course, and we will continue to do so. And we hope others will come along as well.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Jose. I'm going to quickly say thank you very much to you. I'm going to say thank you very much to Macango and Benchmark Minerals, both who have sponsored and made this evening possible. If they want to come up, we'll just have a quick photo in front of the background, and then I'll let the Undersecretary go and refill the wine and get to know you all better. So thank you ever so much.